But since you mentioned the Masons, I know George Washington was good. I've read his writings. I've studied him. I know many of the founders, about half of them were Masons. But he, before he died, wrote letters. In fact, right after he was president, before he died, about how the Jacobins, the Luciferians, and you can go to the National Archives for listeners. In fact, guys, search later. I know you got a video, but we're about to play, but search George Washington's letters on the Illuminati. We've shown them, but at the National Archives, letter after letter, we must fight the Illuminati. There's no doubt that they are taking over Masonry. And I know Masonry, all technology, all mathematics, all building secrets was highly valuable. So going back to Egypt, it was secret construction guilds of mathematics. That was something that was guarded. But then it works for the globalist aim. If other people say all Masons are Lucifer worshipers, when they're outer Masons or porch Masons, most Masons think 33 degrees is all there is. 33 is honorary. We know it's 360. But humans only go up to a certain point. They have then angels and all these other deities, supposedly, fallen angels on it, and that's been confirmed. But I want you to be able to speak about that and talk about it. But there's no doubt we have the big Masonic societies, the big temples promoting chipping of the children, global government. There's no doubt that Masons today are an engine of New World Order and are the opposite of what we saw with the flower of the Enlightenment and the Renaissance. And the direction our country went versus the French Revolution that was depopulation by 80%, 9-day work week, changing the calendar, totally rewriting humanity, ending the family. We know everything we see today is that Luciferian system of the Illuminati, which is even in the encyclopedia for folks that don't know it's real. But let's play this clip shot 2 years ago outside a Shriner meeting at a hospital. Where and this is in Albert Pike, as you know, and Morals and Dogma by other top Masons, the people who they hang their portraits in all their facilities. And you tell a low-level Mason, the big secret is it's Lucifer at the end of it. I want to ask you from your deep research, was it always that way, or what happened with George Washington and others? But let's play this clip where he talks about how he loves sweet Lucifer. Here it is.
Lucifer, what is your problem?
Just that, sir.
Okay.
I'm a Christian, sir.
I'm pure and virtuous and wholesome and innocent. How can you say anything bad about me?
Sir, you need to be born again.
I am born again.
Now, did you just say that you were Lucifer?
I am Lucifer.
Okay, define Lucifer for me.
Pure, virtuous, wholesome, innocent individual that's out to help people.
Lucifer is?
Yeah.
Say that again. Lucifer is a pure, holy...
Virtuous.
Virtuous. Now, is he the Lucifer that God created?
That's the same one.
Oh, man, this is great. I'm going to put this on the internet.
Oh,
Amen.
God bless you,
Amen.
brother.
See, this is what a Mason confesses, is that Lucifer is light. You heard it?
Now, your comment on that, Dr. Stan Monteith of RadioLiberty.com.
Well, I think that the average Mason has no idea what Masonry is about. But as you get up higher to the higher levels of Masonry, you begin to understand that this is the worship of a different God. And back, if you read Albert Pike's writings in Morals and Dogma, he will tell you that they intentionally deceive the Masons. I mean, they do not want the Masons. They're not worthy of knowing. It's only the elite who will really understand what this is all about. And then, of course, he goes on to talk about Lucifer, the light bearer.
Well, here's an example. My dad had a great uncle who was a 33rd degree Mason, and he told him on a hunting trip, because he lived down the street from him, he told my dad when he was very young, he said, don't join the Masons. So why would an old man tell somebody who truly loves, don't join the Masons? And, of course, why would he do something like that?
Well, obviously he knew what it was really all about. And actually, my grandfather, back about 1913, told my dad all about the Illuminati. I mean, here we're talking almost, 97 years ago that my grandfather understood these things. And, just 3 generations ago, everybody knew about the Masons. They knew about the Illuminati. They knew about the secret societies. But
there had been an John Quincy Adams had the anti-Illuminati party.
Sure, the anti-Masonic party. Then basically, of course, they knew that the Masons had been infiltrated by the Illuminati. And incidentally, we were able, Dr. Dennis Cuddy and I, liberated from the Library of Congress a treatise on the on the Clintonian Illuminati. It was written in 1804.
Okay, I'm going to stop again, but I need to ask you now. This is commercial-free rolling here. I've already done 5 hours of radio today at Radio Liberty. Dr. Monteith, how long can you stay with us?
I can only stay with you for about 9 minutes more. I got to rush out of the studio for my own program. I'd love to stay with you longer, but I have an audience. I know.
I totally understand. So you've got the floor for 9 minutes. I'm going to come back in 8, talk about, and there's George Washington's letter on screen about fighting the Illuminati. So they started taking it over around the 1770s. Masons were different before that, at least at many levels. George Washington fought it. You've got the floor, Dr. Monteith. Talk about it.
Well, I think the most important thing that people need to know today is that they intentionally are destroying our economy. Now, who is destroying our economy? Well, the people, I call them the Brotherhood of Darkness, but certainly they tie into the Rockefeller-led Trilateral Commission, Council on Foreign Relations, because, of course, David Rockefeller is the honorary chairman of the North American chapter of the Trilateral Commission, is the honorary chairman of the Council on Foreign Relations, and a permanent member of the Bilderberg Organization. But his nephew lets them spill the beans. It's in the Earth Charter. And what is the Earth Charter? Well, it's the new 10 Commandments for the world. It is to replace that outmoded 10 Commandments that deal with the inferior God, and this is, of course, the satanic counterpart of the God's 10 Commandments of the Holy Scriptures. The satanic Earth Charter, it's actually 16 points, but they call it the 10 Commandments. The modern 10 Commandments is kept in a satanic counterpart of the Ark of the Covenant. It's called the Ark of Hope, and it's displayed throughout the world. It's been accepted by nations throughout the world. On point 10A, it calls for equitable distribution of wealth within nations and between nations. Now, how do you get equitable distribution of wealth between nations? Why, you transfer American jobs, American factories, to other countries. We are intentionally transferring our jobs to other nations. We've lost about 8 million jobs to globalization. What is globalization? Why, it's simply taking down our tariffs and then encouraging corporations to move overseas. How do they encourage them to go overseas? Why, very simply, they can go to China and get abundant, cheap labor, maybe pay 80 cents an hour, maybe even $1 an hour for a hard-working Chinese person, very industrious. They're glad to have a job at that. Why, we give them special loans to go over there. Why, we give them special corporate tax breaks. So if you move your corporation from the United States to China or to India or Malaysia or Mexico or Brazil, you don't have to pay any corporate taxes. Wouldn't you like to escape the 35% corporate tax in the United States? Well, you can do that if you move overseas and we reward you. You don't have to pay any corporate taxes. The average person doesn't really understand what this is all about. We are actively encouraging people to move overseas. They can get abundant, cheap electricity over there, which we, in many instances, subsidize. In fact, they're building 5 new nuclear reactors over in China with the loans guaranteed by America. The United States is guaranteeing the loans for the building of the nuclear power plants in China so they can supply abundant, cheap electricity to American corporations that move over there. And as they're actively increasing the cost of electricity here in the United States, tearing out our dams so that it'll raise the cost of electricity, then putting all sorts of bureaucratic impediments in the way of people who want to build, power plants here in the United States. And now we have the smart meters, and the smart meters are only really about raising the cost of electricity. When you understand that, it begins to make sense. So we are actively moving our factories overseas, and with no tariffs, why would anybody not want to move overseas? They can produce products over there and bring them back in here and undercut American producers. People say, we're waiting for the jobs to come back. Our jobs are not coming back. We are intentionally encouraging the outsourcing of American jobs. The Obama administration recently gave $23 million to a company over in India to teach the people in India how to speak better in English so they could have their telephone answering services over there. And very often you actually call them with a complaint. You want to talk to somebody for a product you have, and you get a fellow who says his name is Clyde, and and he's calling from, and he's in Cleveland. Actually, his name is Raj, and he's in Calcutta. But we're teaching them to speak better English so they can take our jobs. And we're sending our architectural jobs, our engineering jobs, many of our medical jobs like reading x-rays and CTs, and all sorts of jobs are being intentionally sent overseas because they want to lower our standard of living. Anybody who talks about protecting America, reinstating tariffs is immediately attacked. They point out that Smoot-Hawley, tariffs is what caused the Great Depression. It's all a lie. What we need are tariffs. What we need are to encourage industrial production here. But you see, the major factor, they do not want industrial production here. They want to lower the living standards of the American people. There is an invisible government. There is an elite. There are probably no more than 4,000 or 5,000 people, as David Rothkopf says in his book, The Superclass. Of course, David Rothkopf is part of the Council on Foreign Relations. He also used that book to play down the influence of the Trilateral Commission, ridiculing it. David Rothkopf understands what's really going on. He just doesn't want the American people to understand there is a ruling elite that controls our nation, more than 5,000 or 6,000 people, and yet they control our major media, they control our major corporations, they control our major banks, they control our military. And if you want to get to be a 4-star general, you will be at least invited to join the Council on Foreign Relations. And maybe if you're very, very good and very, very faithful, you'll be invited to join the Trilateral Commission, like Admiral Blair, head of national security here, or the National Security Advisor, General James Jones. That's how you get ahead. You go along and get along. Well, these people want to lower our living standards. They're carrying out point 10 of the Earth Charter.
Absolutely, absolutely. And that's just their cover. They say they're ending the industrialized society. Dr. Monteith, I've looked at cancer numbers up several thousand% for the average type of cancer, but here's the Mail Online today. You've spoken a lot about this. I want to end with eugenics in the 5 minutes we have left. Cancer is purely man-made, say scientists, after finding almost no traces of disease in Egyptian mummies. Of course, even the middle classes were mummified, and they've now studied thousands of mummies and found no cancer, just like in sharks. We know the Rockefellers of the 20s discovered all of this, bought up the hospitals, developed systems by the 40s with vaccines filled with cancer viruses like SV40 with the polio. Cancer is a man-made disease. This is mainstream news. Funded and fueled by excessive modern life. A study of ancient remains has found tumors were rare until recent times, and population and poor diet became issues. No, that's the cover. It's everything they're adding. The review of mummies, fossils, and classical literature found a greater understanding of its origins could lead to treatment of disease, which claimed more than 150,000 lives a year in the UK alone. Dr. Monteith, close with eugenics.
Well, basically, this is all planned. We have an amazing interview with Dr. Dunnigan, who in 1969 heard Dr. Richard Day, the director of Planned Parenthood, say, we have treatments for cancer. We're going to keep them locked up in the basement of the Rockefeller Center, Rockefeller Foundation. People are going to have to die of something. They might as well die of cancer. We have that interview. I did that personally back in the 1990s. There really are people. There are treatments for cancer. They're being suppressed, and they're killing people today. Hey, I'm out of time. God bless. Thanks for everything you do, Alex.